Good morning, beautiful people. So today's paradigm shift. This morning has been a beautiful morning, as I think every morning these days are. And so I wanted to talk today about specifically applying your values to the way other people live their lives. In general, I don't think there would be any conflict in this world if we did not do this. If we were to go ahead and just accept people for who they are, what their programming is, what they've done, or simply remove them from our lives. They're making bad choices. We don't want them around, so we go ahead and just remove them from our lives. So what I found that I was doing is that I was applying my values as to the way I thought people should live to them, versus accepting their value system. So specifically, my husband. So I had these mindset. I had this idea of what I thought he should be doing, or what I thought he should be passionate about, or what I thought he should be doing about his growth. And instead I stepped back and I said, you know what? Love him for who he is. Accept him for who he is. Accept that he loves to cook, and that's phenomenal. Celebrate who he is. Celebrate what's good about him. And when I made that paradigm shift, it completely changed my entire outlook on my marriage, on my interaction with other people. For example, my parents, I love them to death. But they have made choices in the past that I didn't agree with. And instead of trying to change them, instead of coming in and trying to give them advice or trying to change them, I simply pushed them away until the time was right to rebuild that relationship. And we're in the process of rebuilding that relationship now. And what was really important for me for that is I stopped worrying. I stopped spending all of my time going, I wish they would do this. I wish that they would blah, blah, blah. I wish that anyone. And so by not throwing my value system on someone else, that's been extremely helpful in realizing that I'm addressing them with my programming, and my programming is different than their programming, and it doesn't make their programming wrong. It just makes it different. Just different. That's what's super important here, is that other people's programming is not wrong. It's just different. They haven't built the skills, or they're on a different path. But for you to apply your judgments to them based on your value system is totally what's wrong with this country in general. What's wrong with probably this world is that we're not here on this earth to change other people. My purpose on this earth is to inspire other people. That's my purpose. That's why I started these videos. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I know down deep that if I can inspire just one person to change their life in some positive way, that's great, done. But I'm not going to sit there and force my value system on someone else. If someone wants to watch the videos, if someone wants to engage in what I'm talking about or follow my Facebook page, they absolutely can do that. But they don't have to. It is a, I'm not going to shove it down your face. You can choose. That's the benefit of free will, right? We can choose to simply walk away. And it's harder sometimes with families. So, my first big real estate deal. I made $75,000 in my first real estate deal. It was phenomenal. I had a really good, it was right around Christmas time. We had a good year that year. So I had always grown up in a family where we only gave gifts to the kids because we were all very poor. We couldn't afford gifts for the adults. Well, this year I had a good year, so I wanted to share the wealth, right? That was my motivation. That was my purpose. And so I bought $50 Walmart gift cards for each of the adults in the family, and I mailed it to them for Christmas. And my sister returned the card and said, "Stop rubbing your success in my face." And honestly, to this day, it has taken me this long. So that was, plus 10 years ago. It has taken me this long to realize that I have been avoiding success because somehow by giving to other people, I'm rubbing it in their face. And so programming is really, really important. Is I'm not here, I'm not trying to apply my values of success to anyone, but I simply wanted to give back. So perception is very important. What you perceive someone else doing or reacting or whatever is the key to good communication. So whether you're good at your perceptions or not. But instead of perceiving people, instead of going, gosh, based on my value system, this is how this person is acting, open your mind, ask them questions, and receive them. Find out where they're coming from. Find out what built their mindset around something. One, if you're going to try to convince them or you're going to try to teach them about something, you need to know what their programming is before you can have a valid conversation with them. So it's really important to not apply your values to other people. However, this doesn't apply necessarily, or it does apply to, depending on the situation, to when people critique you. So you have to be open to critique. You have to love yourself enough to realize that you are an imperfect person, that you still have things you can work on. And so you can't be arrogant to the point that you're like, oh, well, I'm perfect. I'm amazing. I'm confident. Whatever. You can say those things, yes, but you're not perfect. No one is perfect. Everyone can adapt and learn a little more. So remember that when you're not applying your perception to other people, you can help realize that when they critique you, they're critiquing from their programming, from their opinions. I received an email at one point in the past that, gave me this big long laundry list of all these things that people were critiquing me on. And my first reaction was to realize that my programming is different than their programming, and to ask questions or to figure out exactly where they were coming from. And so unfortunately what that came off as is that I was being arrogant, or that I wasn't listening to what they were saying, but I'm asking questions about why they believe what they believe. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. That doesn't mean you're wrong. What it means, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're diverting or not listening to the critique, but rather that you are trying to find out where the critique is coming from in their minds. Because if you took your behavior to someone else may be perfectly accepting of it. So being open to critique from other people also opens you to what they think and other programming. And so you have to be careful not to emotionally identify with what they're saying as a personal attack against you. Okay? Just because they think differently about the way you're living your life or what you're doing doesn't mean that they're right. It means that they're different. And you have to determine the difference between the two. You have to determine, is this something I really need to change in my life? Am I hurting people by some action that I'm doing? Because that's my number one litmus test. Am I hurting people by some action that I'm doing? If I am, then I need to change that. If I'm not, then I'm being me and I'm having a good time doing it and I'm loving life, then it may not be such a bad thing that I'm continuing with some behavior. But keep that kind of litmus test in mind. Am I hurting people? Actually hurting people? And there's also a fine line with that one. Am I hurting someone because they're deeming themselves a victim? Or am I hurting someone because some actual action that I'm taking makes them feel used or whatnot? There's a fine line between that. I've never been one to accept excuses. Excuses don't fly with me. So if you have something that's stopping your forward progress or stopping you from getting things done, I don't want to hear excuses. I want to hear solutions. And that, I think, is the issue with our society, is we come, well, I've been really tired, or I've been unable to get things done because I've got drama in my life. I get that. Drama, everybody has drama in their life, right? Everybody has things happening to them. And I can sympathize because I've been there, but I don't want to empathize. I'm not putting myself in their shoes. I'm simply saying, okay, so I understand that you've got drama going on, but what is your end game? How are we going to overcome that? So that's really the two things, is not applying your values to other people, trying to look objectively at why they're doing what they're doing, having compassion for them in that aspect, letting them explain what's on their mind. And then also being open to critique, realizing that you're not perfect, you are an imperfect person, you're always bettering yourself in some way. And not taking it personal when they do critique you. That, I think, is the hardest part, especially for me lately. I've been definitely getting better at it, but, when you told me that I had something wrong with me, I would take it personal. But now that I've realized that you applying values to someone else is the core element of why we take things personally, just don't take it personally. Just realize it's their programming. Now, can I learn from their opinion? And that's what's important. So that being said, you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.